All right, Oba Femi, Isaac, thanks for joining. How's it going for you this time of year?
Thank you. Everything's going well. Thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely. Wanted to start. So you were a wrestling fan growing up in Nigeria, right? I saw something about you having the CDs back in the day. What was that about?
The CDs would release weekly, a day after the show aired. So Monday Night Raw would happen on Mondays, and then Tuesday nights, I'd make my way out to go purchase the CD and watch the replays. But yeah, that was my fanhood coming up.
How did you find wrestling? How did you know about that and know to do that?
I mean, honestly, I can't really remember the inception of my passion and spark for wrestling, but I just want to say I saw it on TV one day and it piqued my interest. I love the characters, I love the action, and I was like, oh wow, this engages my mind and very stimulating. I loved it.
Who were a couple of your favorites growing up?
Triple H, Undertaker, Brock Lesnar, CM Punk, Shawn Michaels, those 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 were the top ones for me. I mean, I liked a lot of the wrestlers, but those were my guys to watch.
Yeah, yeah. So what was it like just in general growing up in Nigeria? What was your childhood like? What was your family life like?
Uh, my family life was good. My parents were loving, stayed together, which is fantastic. Uh, Grew up a wrestling fan. I didn't really have an abundance of, resources growing up, but my parents did a good enough job to not make me notice that we didn't have resources. Is when I grew older and I look back on certain things and I'm like, oh wow, no, wait, we, it wasn't always like flowers and rainbows, and that's thumbs up to my parents for making me never feel that.
If you don't mind my asking, what types of things did you not realize that you didn't quite have, I
It was
guess?
just, certain needs that, that were, provided for me. And, looking back on things, realizing my parents didn't quite have those things to give.
Mhm.
I don't want to get into details because it's, some of those things for someone living in a first world country would be like, well, should have that. But like just basic things that you would expect, that even just having them was a miracle to begin with.
Yeah. So how did you get into shot put and doing the track and field events there?
Uh, there was a there was a Lagos tournament because we don't have like a very structured body when it comes to athletics during college or high school. But this was a high school meet. Some rich man called Baba Ijebu, he put it together to raise funds and stuff like that. And we picked people among our students to go for it to represent each event. So the people we knew were fast would they run, and the agile ones would jump, and Isaac, you are big. Yeah, you're going to throw the shot put today. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I did it. And then I luckily got spotted by one of the national coaches at the time. Uh, and then he was like, oh, I need to talk to your parents. And he spoke to my dad and said, your son could have a really good future if he actually tries, if he actually practices. Because I'd never practiced throwing the shot put and I placed third against
Wow.
guys who, would regularly practice. So the national coach was like very invested in me and he put me on.
And so this is like when you were at high school level, essentially.
Yes, this was high school. Like, this was
Yeah.
I want to say my junior year of high school.
And was this the Nigeria University Games?
No, that's different. That came up 2 years after, 2 or 3 years after that.
Okay. And so you get spotted by a national coach basically just off your first time through picking up a shot put and throwing it.
Yeah, it's crazy, but yes.
So what did you do from there? Is that something that you started training and working on doing?
Yes. Started training hard. The goal was always to compete for my country. One thing led to another that made that not happen. Uh, just a lot to do with our Nigerian Athletic Federation. I have beef with them, but that's just for another day. Qualifying for national championships and international championships are not going because of lack of funds and silly things like that that the federation could have easily taken care of, but they wanted me to pay money out of my pocket to go and compete for them, and they will reimburse me later, and that was just the worst deal ever. So I never represented my country, but then I heard that there was a good opportunity to actually get a scholarship and actually pursue shot put semi-pro at the semi-pro level, because that's essentially what the NCAA is. I know for a long time they were saying it's not the pros, it's not the pro, it's semi-pros at the very least. But yeah, I took advantage of the opportunity, and a coach from Middle Tennessee, the late Coach Hayes, he recruited me, and that's how my journey began.
Yeah. So how did you get spotted by Middle Tennessee? Did
I
they
was
come out there to find you guys, or is it something over tape they see online, or how did you
Yeah, so
guys get connected?
my coach at the time had, videos, and they would keep track of your progress and what you threw at every meet. So once you hit, there's definitely like a benchmark of like when you hit this number, you are eligible to be, recruited, or you're good. So my coach happened to have the contact of Dean Hayes because they had met at an international meet sometime in the past, and they just had each other's contact, and that's how they began arranging for my transfer to Middle Tennessee State University.
So what's that like at that point? Realizing you may go across the world to America to a place I assume you'd never been before to go to like what was that feeling like at that time in your life?
So I had been to the States, which is actually one of the things I should mention. My parents were able to take me to the States, even though they didn't quite have the funds to, when you calculate how much they were making at the time versus how much a ticket cost and feeding and all that. That's one of the things that my parents made sure I never felt that, we lacked anything.
Mm.
Um, but coming over to the States was not like it wasn't a very huge culture shock. I would say one or two things surprised me, but nothing really took me aback because I had been to America before, and I'd listened to a lot of Western music and American. I knew the gist of American pop culture and American subculture, so like I was fine for the most part.
What were those one or two things that were culture shocks?
Uh, I'll say the hatred of pineapple on pizza. It didn't make any sense to me. The hatred of Nickelback also didn't make sense to me.
I'm with you there. I'm with you on that one.
Because keep in mind, I had listened to Nickelback like when I was in Nigeria, and like everyone back home loved Nickelback, especially if you know who they were. And I come here, and people who don't like Nickelback. I was just like, I love this music. What are you talking about?
That's funny.
Uh, I'll say those are the little ones that were more apparent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you came to America with your family, was that a vacation or was that like a recruiting trip? What was that for?
So initially it was a vacation. This took place like let's say 8 years before I officially moved to the States for school. It was just a vacation. We came to see an auntie and catch up with family that was, in America. So we all took advantage and kind of planned a trip without intentionally planning a trip. And we all met here, and it was fun.
What part of the country was that?
This was Houston. I can't remember where in Houston, but it was in Houston, it was Houston, Texas.
Gotcha.
I want to say 2010 or 11. This was a while back.
So so Middle Tennessee is interested. Was that a tough decision to leave your family, or what was kind of that process?
No, because I was at the point in my career that I've realized that like passion trumps all. Your dreams, no matter how crazy they are, they have to come true, and you have to go through it every single step to make that happen. And leaving my family was just one of those steps. So it was a small price to pay, for a dream so grand. And my plan was to come to Middle Tennessee State University, dominate the NCAA, qualify for nationals, get better and better, and hopefully one day go pro, go to the Olympics. And I was still spiteful of the mistreatment by the Nigerian Athletic Federation. So in my mind, I was going to be like, all right, I'm going to get good, and when they need me, I'm not going to be there. I'm going to go and compete for one of these oil countries like Bahrain or something where I can, get treated better, get paid better, and no hassle, and just, stick it to them in the end. That was my plan.
Mhm.
Uh, Semi accomplished that plan because, I did become an All-American, made it to nationals, won the SEC championship 3 times, won the CUSA championship 3 times, very well decorated. I just didn't quite chase it to the level of going to the Olympics and qualify. I actually qualified for the 2022 World Championships. Well,
Mm.
2021. COVID messed it up, but that year I qualified, but I ended up not going because I had already secured the gig here. So
Yeah.
you know,
So I was looking at the Middle Tennessee roster when you were there. Were you the only thrower on the team?
at some point I was, yes, and that's one of the reasons I had to up and leave because we didn't exactly have a throws coach. because as great a coach as Dean Hayes was, rest his soul, he was not a throws coach, so he could only do so much for me. He gave me all the tools he could. He gave me his best advice, and we took it as far as we could. And at some point, I realized the hard way that, okay, like if I actually want to get good and go to the Olympics and win championships, I'm going to have to move. And I made the hard decision to move to Alabama. This is another time that I have friends and people that I've met along the way that I had to leave again. But again, small price to pay for the big dream. So
And
that's how I
you
moving.
and you were, I think, like freshman of the year, Conference USA, and all that stuff. And so you're doing that pretty much kind of on your own, essentially,
Yeah, it
without a
was
throwing
yeah,
coach.
yeah. I was doing that on my own, and that's another thing that made like other throws coaches very, excited about me. They're like, oh wow. It strokes the coach's ego too. It's like he doesn't even train with a coach. Imagine what I can do with him. So like when I hopped on the portal, it was like hot cake. Like I was like, oh man, I don't know, maybe this isn't the right move. I start questioning myself and like maybe I won't get as many offers as I think. And then they started rolling in. I got one from UT, I got one from South Carolina, of course, Alabama, uh man, all over the place. Like if honestly, if there was a school, A&M, I got offers from everybody. I ended up settling with Alabama because that was just the best deal. It wasn't as far away from Tennessee as, except UT. It wasn't as far away from Tennessee. I can still, come by, and they had the best deal financially. And
Hmm.
I strongly believed in what the coach was preaching as far as like, shot put throwing techniques. And, we really meshed the day we spoke. So I ended up going to Alabama.
So you did have an NIL deal and going to Alabama then, right? Sounded like.
At the time, I didn't have the deal yet. I was still just on regular athletic stipends, but it was more money than I was getting in
Hmm.
Middle Tennessee. The NIL deal came much later. This came around the end of 21. Yeah,
The
around
WWE one.
yeah, that's when I ended up
Yeah.
doing the tryout, and I got the job. But I told Hunter and them, I was like, I have to finish school. I'm not quite done. I really would like to finish. And that's when they were like, don't worry. We you're just in luck. We just started an NIL program. We can rope you in, with them, keep in contact with you until you graduate school, and we'll be ready for you. And honestly, everything lined up the way, like, perfectly, because you don't plan stuff like that. Because imagine if there was no NIL at all, like I would have to maybe forfeit the opportunity and try again next year. But luckily, the pipeline was there, and I was included, and everything worked out the way it should have.
So before I get to the WWE, what was your experience like at Alabama? Obviously, a lot of success there for a number of years. How was that? What was that like?
Uh, I learned a lot of things from the Southern culture. I learned one very fun game called beer darts. One of my favorite. One of my. I don't know if you know anything about beer darts, but it's
Oh
a really
yes,
fun game
yes.
I picked up in Alabama. But other than that, like the football culture was the biggest thing there. Like if you go to, the city of Tuscaloosa, the biggest attraction is the University of Alabama and nothing else. So it was a lot of football, and I was fortunate enough to, make a lot of good friends while I was there. A lot of lifelong friendships and people that I can always, send messages to and keep in touch with forever. Especially I appreciate my coach, Coach Yosh. He was the one who, he had that talk with me that convinced me to come to Alabama in the first place. He was super helpful. He taught me a lot of like lessons, both like on and, off the field, because, people don't talk about those lessons as much as, all the stuff you do as an athlete. But there's you have to make it on time to the bus. You have to handle things outside of the sport itself. Like, and I feel like a lot of those things carried onto the WWE, because there's the wrestling, but then there's also the media appearances, and the interactions and the signings and the other stuff you have to do outside the building. So my time with Coach Yosh and Alabama prepared me for this very well.
And you were an art major, I know, and I've seen some of your drawings. How did you get into art and do that whole thing?
So art was always in the picture, even before wrestling. I've always been inclined to do well at art. I've always been gifted. I can draw, I can paint, I can sculpt a little bit. So art for me was, when I was trying to choose a major, wasn't as much as a passion as it used to be. At this point, shot put had taken over, but it was something that I was still, I still had a bit of passion for. And I was like, okay, I can do this, sometimes with my eyes closed, it's going to be an easy enough major to get through. And honestly, that's why I picked it.
So how does WWE get in the picture? You do the tryout in Vegas, I believe. How did that come together?
Uh, they hit me up on my DMs. They slid into my DMs, and one of the WWE recruiters was like, "How would you like to come to Vegas to do one of our tryouts?" And I was at first, of course, thought it was a spam. Like who is this? Who is this person trying to deceive? And I ended up going back to look at the profile and look up the person online, and I was like, "Oh wow, this is actually like this. This is a shoot." So I took them up on their offer, and that's how we got the whole ball rolling.
What are you thinking at that moment? I mean, you're like, this is something I used to enjoy as a kid, and suddenly they're coming to me asking me to try out. I have to imagine childhood Isaac would have been over the moon with something like that.
Yeah, definitely. Childhood Isaac was excited and doing backflips, but I mean, adult Isaac took the wheels. And you have to, because that's another thing that being an athlete taught me. You don't celebrate until like, it's actually over. You could
Hmm.
you could get a really good throw in round four and take the lead, but there's still five and six. It's not over until it's done. So that's the approach I took to it. I was like, I'm going to go to Vegas. I'm going to put my best foot forward. I know my cardio is not great right now because I'm a big burly shot putter, but like that's not going to stop me. I'm going to give it my all, even if I die trying or whatever. So that's the approach I took, and it worked out for me.
Yeah, how did the tryout go? I've been to the tryouts before. I know obviously you're not doing moves, but it's a lot of cardio, a lot of tumbling and stuff like that. How did you handle that for the first time?
Uh, I honestly don't know. At the time, I said I handled it well because, I made it. But like, sometimes you can look back on your old stuff and you're like, why did they even hire me? So I honestly don't know. I thought I handled it, the best I could. I was big and burly, and not that, my cardio wasn't great, but like I was still an athlete, so I could still pick up things fast, and I could still, do the rolls, and I was still flexible to some degree. So it was a one day of in-ring stuff, one day of promo stuff, and then another day where we kind of, I guess, put everything together, like everything you've picked up over the last 2 days, and that was kind of the format we followed. But talking, honestly, also I don't even know how I did talking as well. But I like to think I did good. I got a good reaction from my promo of that day, and everything else I just coasted by, and it worked out.
And so they tell you, hey, we'd love to move forward with you, and you have to be like, no, wait, I got to finish school first.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes, I had to inform them. I had to let them know like this is what I really want to do. If you guys can work with me, and they did. They
Hmm.
did.
And what was that? It was about what, another semester, I think it was, doing
Yeah.
being
Another
NIL,
another
knowing,
year.
yeah,
Yeah,
knowing this was in your
another whole
future,
year.
but finishing in Alabama. What was kind of that doing those like?
It was very reassuring in the times that it needed to be. Just knowing you have something lined up for,
Hmm.
but then again, I was also trying to give it my best in shot put because I was still looking for that big throw, and a little part of me still wanted that dream of going to the Olympics, and so I chased that as hard as I could, knowing that I had something lined up for me afterwards, and
Hmm.
I did my best. It was just honestly, I made sure I didn't put it in the forefront because like most times when people do stuff like that, they end up not working as hard as they should at the things right in front of them at the time. But I did a good job of just, okay, you have that, put in the back of your head. Cool. Now we go.
Was there a moment when you made that decision of like, all right, Olympics not going to happen or not going to be a focus. Now I'm going to move to wrestling. What was that ultimate decision like?
So I finished the NCAA championships. I finished third.
Hmm.
So my season was done. But like it wasn't real because I hadn't started like, coming to the PC and training. It didn't feel quite real. Like I didn't quite feel like a wrestler. I still felt like, track and field guy, a shot putter. And then I found out that I made it to the World Championships. My friend called me and told me that I qualified. And then I received the news and I was like, oh wow, do I lace up and do I just go? Like it's still the World Championships. Like, and then my heart was just like, it's done.
And that was for Nigeria.
It would have been for Nigeria. I would have had to
So
eat
you
my
so you so
words.
you got to that point where they wanted to bring you to do the world
They
championships,
wanted me
but
they
it
wanted me to go.
but
This
at
was
that
them reaching out for the first time ever. This is them like actually actively trying to get me to go, and I was just like, my mind is in WWE already.
so what time do you remember kind of what period that was? So that was it right after your track season?
Yeah, this was around like late June, early July.
Okay. Had you been at the PC then?
No, I hadn't even started the PC,
Okay.
but I was about to because I started my job here at the PC July 18, 2022. So all this about the World Championship probably took place in like mid-June when I was already in Florida, but I hadn't started the job yet.
But you figured at this point wrestling, that's where your head was at this point, and then that's where you wanted to move forward.
Yeah, that was just I was just mentally checked out of shot put at that
Yeah.
point.
So a lot of the people who came through the NIL program to WWE, they're football or they're gymnastics. They're used to hitting and falling. You've obviously got the footwork, but what was that adjustment like? Having to be more physical in a new kind of way and falling down for a big guy like you and stuff like that.
It wasn't much of an adjustment honestly because like even when I was a child, like I've always played rough. So getting hit and falling down and taking bumps was not. It wasn't this huge transitional phase. It was just like, oh, that was the first bump. Like, oh, okay, it wasn't that bad, and then I just kept doing it until within the first like week, I was like, yeah, I can bump all day.
As you start going at the PC, as you start getting on level up, is there a moment for you where it really started to click, where you felt like, all right, I've got a real hold of what this is?
I mean, there's been a few times I've gotten like nuggets of wisdom that like kind of changed the game. I once heard someone say like, don't inject professional wrestling to yourself, inject yourself into professional wrestling. And like that really, changed my perception. It's like, okay, instead of asking what move to do, it's like what move would Oba do? What move would, the specific wrestler in that situation do? And that changed the game for me. I've had wrestlers like Ivar and Coach Bloom, assist me when it comes to the whole psychology of being a big man and working like you're a big man because you can't, there's certain things you can't do when you play a big man role. And it's a very hard thing to master because there's a lot of big guys that come and go. They put the rocket under them and they don't quite live up to the expectation because it's a hard job to do, I feel. And Matt Bloom and Ivar really opened my eyes in the aspect because like they both have like combined maybe 50, 55 to 60 years of, I don't know, maybe 55 years of professional wrestling under their belt. So like they have a lot of knowledge and they really poured that into me and accelerated my process to the PC.
What did it mean when you find out, you're going to be the North American champ and get a title?
Uh, as always, the child in me is flipping and jumping, but the adult in me is like, okay, you can give me the title all day, but this reign has to be good, right? So the adult me is just like, okay, how can we make this reign, good and special? And how can we make bring Sean's vision to life? And that was my headspace when I got told the information. Not like, oh, I want to be champion. It's like, okay, am I going to leave this belt any better than when I met it?
Has your family been able to watch you wrestle in person? How do they
Not
kind of get a
live,
hold of
not
it?
live. My mom came to visit me in late 2022, around like November, December, but like I hadn't gotten on TV yet. But I was in NXT. Uh, love my mom. She came to see me, which is great. But yes, my family has watched me perform, but they have never seen me live.
How did they feel about all the success you're having?
I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. They're happy. I'm sure they're happy, but I don't know how happy they are. I don't know how they really feel about it because it's a good, it's on paper, it's a good accomplishment, NXT champion, longest reigning North American and all that stuff. And I know they are happy, but I don't know the full extent of, how they really feel about what I do.
Are you able to get back there at all to see them?
I've been back twice since 2023. So I've been able to see them as
Hmm.
well. Yeah.
How has it been? I mean, even going back to college, just kind of being here without your family for so long.
Seeing them was good. Everybody had aged. Even I have a younger brother. He was 14 when I got back. So he was like 7 when I left.
Oh
I
wow.
came back. Yeah, I came back and he was 13. So so a lot of things changed, but like I try my best to be myself. I when I'm not at the PC, Oba goes to rest. Yeah.
Mhm.
I like being Isaac.
Yeah. What would that mean if they were able to ever come see you wrestle in person?
I hope the match is good.
Yeah.
I hope they come for a good one.
Yeah.
That's all you can hope. It'll be exciting for me. It'll put me to rest. It'll make me, more relaxed and be like, okay, they've seen me do this in person. And that might also change the way they feel about, what I do as well. So I can't wait.
Yeah. So you've been wrestling Trick Williams, and will be again. Obviously, a former South Carolina football player. Is there any Alabama, South Carolina chatter between you guys?
Uh, not as much. No, we mostly talk about the thing we do, wrestling.
Hmm.
But no, Trick ride. He's a ride or die for South Carolina, so you can't say anything bad about them when he's around.
You're obviously still relatively new to this, but you've accomplished a lot in NXT. What are your ultimate goals in this industry? Obviously, your goals used to be get to the Olympics and do this. What are your goals now?
uh, I think right now at the moment, my goals change every week. Sometimes if you catch me on a bad week, they might change every day. But right now, I'm really thinking about longevity and if I'll be remembered. So like when I'm doing things now, when I'm planning things now, I keep in mind like, okay, which one of these shots is better? This one that the people might pop for and won't remember, or this shot that might be a little bit of white noise, but it'll be a memorable shot that everybody can remember. So it's like things like that because there's a lot of guys who do this and like they have good runs and they accomplish a lot, but like nobody remembers how much they did. It's a very weird place to be, and I don't want my legacy to be like that because obviously we go out there, we compete, and it's not an easy job. You get injured, you get hurt, mentally it's a lot too. So you don't want all that to be for nothing and no one remembers it. Like I'm trying to get to that place where like Oba Femi had this iconic run. Like even though I don't win 18 WWE championships, like everyone remembers like, oh, Oba, oh yeah, I used to watch Oba. That's where I'm at right now.
Is that something you've always wanted in your life to be remembered? Has that been a goal of yours?
I think everybody wants to be remembered. I have this I don't, I'm sure it's not like an original theory, but like people get married just so somebody can witness their lives, like everybody wants somebody to remember what they did and want to leave their mark. No matter how much people say they don't care, deep down you do.
You mentioned Ivar and Coach Bloom. Any other mentors you've had in wrestling or lessons from any legends that have stuck with you?
Nah. The I'm sure they're there.
Yeah,
Definitely they're there, but
yeah,
none come to mind right now. You get a lot of feedback from a lot of different places, and you have to a lot of times, filter which one's for you and not for you because everyone comes with their own ideology of what this is, but you have to remember where they're coming from might be a different time. It might have been a different management. So like, certain things used to work, but they're not quite the same. And I always take all those into account. But like I've gotten loads of advice from Sean, from Bloom, from even my peers and people who have been there a little bit longer like Josh Briggs and Dijak. They gave me a phenomenal match last year at Stand and Deliver and
yeah.
they really taught me a lot about that match taught me a lot about professional wrestling. So I owe my success to a lot of people here. I can't remember one specific thing, but I'm grateful to everybody who's contributed.
And lastly, just anything else people should know about you that I didn't ask or that I should know about you.
Well, you don't need to know much about Isaac. You can find out all about Oba Femi at Stand and Deliver, April the 20th in Las Vegas. It's gonna be a show.
There we go. Got it in. Oba, Isaac, thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, my man. Appreciate you.